Welcome to the Shepherd's Chapel Network Family Bible Study Hour with Pastor Arnold Murray. Wisdom is understanding God's Word. Pastor Murray's unique teaching approach brings God's Word alive with meaning as he takes you on a chapter-by-chapter, verse-by-verse study of God's letter to you, the Bible. And now here is Pastor Arnold Murray.
Good day to you. God bless you. Welcome to the Shepherd's Chapel. Welcome to this Family Bible Study Hour. We're ready to get back into our Father's Word. Where did we leave off? Well, we left off with chapter 40. We just discussed Behemoth. It's important that you understand Behemoth. A child can draw you a picture by the description if you focus on the language. The subject was, he was the chief of the ways of God. It means he was the biggest mammoth God ever created. Now, inasmuch as he created man and this creature in the first earth age, because God had declared he created them at the same time, it doesn't, and I know that many of your commentaries are going to say he's a hippopotamus, that he is this, that, or the other. A hippopotamus does not graze off the top of mountains. They would die there. So don't let someone mislead you. Focus on God's Word and hang to it. There is only one creature that God has created that has the tail like a cedar tree. Now, for the benefit of you that are not familiar with the Hebrew, let me explain. What we call salt cedar or some little stunted cedar plant would normally be termed Tiasha or Heath, but cedars here, like cedars of Lebanon, many times they would grow 70 feet tall and be 50, the girth could be as much as 53 feet. This one particular one that measures that is thought to be approximately 2,000 years old. So only one creature had a tail like that, and it would something that would be in the Baronosaur family, a dinosaur, in other words. So he was talking about the first earth age. Now, he's answering Job's question about why his troubles are as they are, to be stripped of everything. He has listened to three very unwise people, make it four with Elihu, and they didn't answer anything for him. Now God comes down to describing Satan in this 41st chapter. In other words, he's saying, Job, this is where your trouble is. You're blaming this, that, and the other. Now, and this is God speaking, so you can count on it. Okay, now, with that having been said, we come to this earth age, and I'll point out the reasons why you can determine that. In other words, this covers the katabo, the overthrow from the first, the fact that Satan's spirit is here today. As a matter of fact, Job chapter 1, verse 7, never forget it. Satan came before God and with the other angels and said, I have been walking to and fro up on the earth. So at this time, Christ had not confined him to be behind him. That is to say, across the gulf. Spiritually, he's still here. He's the prince or the king of this age, if you would. And certainly our Father allows that if you will allow it. Don't put up with him. This is how our Father leads Job to the fact, beware of Satan. Chapter 41, verse 1, a word of wisdom from our Father in Yeshua's name, and it reads, Canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Now, I have no doubt in my mind that we're talking about a croc here, crocodile, that is to say, and many would tell you a crocodile has no tongue. That's not true. A crocodile has a tongue, it's just that it's adhered to the bottom jaw, and you can't put a cord around it. Why? It's attached to it. It would be an impossibility. In the first place, you're not going to get that close to them anyway. Verse 2, Canst thou put an hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? In other words, fishermen, as you know, would usually run a line through the gill and the nose, or whatever you want to call it, and place them back into the water to keep them fresh or alive until they're ready to go home. You want to try that on this crocodile? I don't think so. Verse 3. In other words, Satan's that wicked. Satan will talk kind of sweet to you, but then he'll eat you up. Verse 3. Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he talk nice to you? Will he speak soft words unto thee, giving you a lot of good deals? You better know about Satan's bargains, because he will take the very love that is within you and turn it against you if you're not careful. Verse 4. Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? Do you think you could tame him as a domestic animal? I don't think so. In other words, with this being a type of Satan, Satan will lie to you, he will cheat, he will steal. He would promise you the sun if you chose it. But his promises are shallow, vain, and false. Verse 5. In other words, I hope you understand, God is answering Job's questions in a parable here, why things went wrong. 5. Wilt thou play with him as with a bird? The Hebrew is very specific, as with a little bird? Or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? Will you put him in a little cage so that they can use him for sport? Naturally, you don't mess around with Satan. You don't argue with him. Never argue with Satan or you're going to lose. Just tell him to get behind you or away from you in the name of Yeshua, of Jesus, that is to say. And he must obey. He has no choice. Verse 6. Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants or the Canaanites? The Hebrew word here for merchants. Verse 7. Canst thou fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish spears? No, they bounce off. He has armor. The croc has armor from head to the tip of his tail, that he's very difficult to take or to spear or anything of that nature. And symbolically, so is Satan. That's why you just order him away from you. You don't try to tame him. You know, I actually get questions occasionally from compassionate hearts that say, I feel sorry for Satan. I don't. He blew it. He had every opportunity that you will have by the time is over in the first earth age. He was elevated to a very, very high position, and he went bad. Why? Because he is bad from the core out. Verse 8. Lay thine hand upon him, remember the battle, and do no more. What it's kind of saying here, you lay your hand on him once, and after the battle, after he's grabbed at you and snapped at you, you won't do it again. You may not even have a hand left to try to lay on his head. Verse 9. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? In other words, you try to take him and your thoughts will be in vain. And certainly one will be cast down even at the sight of him. He'll make a believer out of you. He can spin like a top and drag you to the bottom before you can say 1, 2. Satan will do the same thing to you in life today spiritually. Spiritually, he is as wicked in taking an innocent soul to the bottoms of the depth, the abyss, as a crocodile is grabbing an innocent bird on the bank. Verse 10, none is so furious that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me? In other words, I'm his maker, and nobody dares barehanded go in against him. Then why would somebody stand before me? I'm the one that created him. This is the beauty of remembering God created both the behemoth and Leviathan. They're his creatures. Now, naturally, man, when it comes to the creature themselves, man is given a mind that in using the very tools of the trade, man overcomes the animal world, of course. But to be barehanded, and that's what you're going to be with Satan. There's only one weapon and one armor that you can use against this one. It's not a Sherman tank. It's not a 30-06. It's not something else. It's the gospel armor in the name of Yeshua Messiah. That's the only power that you have that protects you from this one. And it's that simple. But you have to have the faith and the knowledge to know that our Father gives you that power and that authority, and you've got to be bold enough to use it. Verse 11. Who hath prevented me that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine. Prevented, probably, if you translated that, anticipated. Who can anticipate what I'm going to do? Who can anticipate why I did this? Well, I hope Job can. Because what you're going to do, anticipate, I guess, he's going to go along and find out he's been out in a crocodile patch here pretty soon. They've been wading through it like a minefield from day one, pointing fingers in every direction except at the old crocodile, that's to say Satan. Make sure in your life, I've seen families actually break up, pointing fingers at each other instead of recognizing the fact that Satan has moved in with them, spiritually speaking. He's got them shouting at each other. He's got them arguing all the time. And they blame each other. The one they really truly love, they blame, and Satan laughs his head off over in the corner. Out of sight, of course, he's spiritual. Evil, demonic. He will have adults arguing over how the toothpaste is opened or how a package of bread is opened and turn it into a regular fight. It's so ridiculous. And like God said to Job, said, "What? Rather to Satan concerning Job, what do you think about my child Job? I really think he's got a lot on the ball." Satan says, "I can take him." Do you think he doesn't do the same about concerning you? If you're one of God's elect, do you think he doesn't think he can take you? Well, he will if you don't recognize that you're in a crocodile field at times, if you allow them to move that close, and you need to do something about it, of course. Now, and verse 12. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportions. In other words, I'm not going to hide him from you. Won't hide him from you at all. But that's encouraging, is it not? I'm not going to hide him from you. He's not concealed. And here they've been wading out around him for 37 chapters trying to figure out what's wrong. And here Satan is growling and grumbling and nipping at him and got him running Job down, and poor old Job with boils from head to toe. I tell you what, God will not conceal the truth nor Satan from you, your enemy, that is to say. It's there for you to recognize and to do something about. Can you? Will you? I don't know. That's up to you. First of all, you must believe. You must be a believer And then you can exercise that power given by our Father in Matthew chapter, Matthew chapter, I'm going to say it here in a moment, Luke chapter 10, verse 18 and 19, where God gives you power over all of your enemies. This certainly is your enemy. This crocodile that symbolizes Satan, and I'll document it as we finish the chapter here. He won't conceal him from you. In other words, if you have the truth in your mind to recognize when things go wrong, who's to blame, then God will protect you when you utilize that power. It's that simple. You can believe our Father's word. I have no doubt in my mind that the reason we have so many divorces in this nation today is because this fact is not recognized, and there are not that many believers that know how to handle it. Verse 13, who can discover the face of his garment? Or who can come to him with his double bridle? Double set of teeth. He's got 2 rows of teeth. You can't penetrate it. It would tear you to pieces. And who can discover the face of his garment? It is knit with armor laying over armor from head to toe until you couldn't penetrate it. Verse 13. You understand, we're not talking about only a crocodile. We're talking about Satan himself. You can't penetrate him either without the proper tools. Verse 13. Who can discover the face of his garment? And we've covered that. 14 we go. Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about. His teeth and his face bring fear just to look at them. And when he opens that old mouth and snaps down, so it is. Verse 15. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a close seal. In other words, the very hide itself is so close together and so hard to penetrate. It's the same way with Satan, beloved. Without God, the point he wants you to know, it's an impossibility for you. But with God, it's quite simple. Now, example, if a man had a good spear and rolled that old crocodile over, he's kind of easy to get to, but there's just one thing, not too many people are hoss enough to roll a crocodile over and still have an arm left. Well, that's kind of the way Satan is, all right? That's why you don't want to mess with him. You don't want to argue with him. Just order him out. Don't waste your time with him. Verse 16. One is so near to another, this is his scales or armor, that no air can come between them. In other words, you can't penetrate it. Again, I would, at the risk of repeating myself, don't argue with Satan. Do you know, as it is written in, it's 1 Peter, I think it's in chapter 2 somewhere, and the very scripture escapes me, even the angels don't argue with Satan. I could turn there, but you'll find it. It's probably about verse 11, 12, or 13, somewhere right along in there in the second chapter of 2 Peter. Not even the angels will argue with him. Why? It doesn't pay. Just order him out. Don't let him work his way into your family. Hey, he can, like our Father said, he'll make many supplications and he'll speak soft words into you. He'll drive you such a hard bargain that you won't know for sure that it's Satan that's making the offer. Verse 17. They are joined one to another, they stick together, that they cannot be sundered. You can't push them apart. Verse 18. But his sneezings a light doth shine. By his sneezings a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Because he calls himself this. Here God is letting the truth slip through concerning, what does he call himself? The son of the morning. Do you understand that's what Lucifer means in the Hebrew tongue? That he's the bright and morning star. In other words, every name that Christ carries, Satan copies. He's a copycat. Why? He wanted to be Messiah. So he will look very bright and he'll be very soothing and persuasive. How sharp are you? You see, the conflict began in the garden, and it amplifies as labor pains as that time grows near, closer and closer and closer. He's going to try you closer and closer together. Do you know how to detect? It's called spiritual discernment. Verse 19. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Here you know we're not talking about a crocodile, and you know spiritually who we are talking about. Verse 20. Out of his nostrils goeth smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. In other words, he is, it is written in Revelation chapter 13 that he will be able to make phos come from the heavens, which means lightning, fire. So he's a firebug, all right. He'll make you think he's got a lot on the ball and a lot to offer. And unfortunately, when he comes as the false, spurious Messiah, saying, I've come to rapture you out of here, many are going to believe him. It's amazing, is it not? Verse 21. His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. Here we know, no crocodile. We're talking about the old dragon that symbolizes the king of Babylon, or the dragon, the old dragon of Babylon, which is to say none other than Satan himself. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand who your Father's talking about here, as always. Father is letting Job know, Job, sharpen up for me, boy. Look around you. Verse 22. In his neck remaineth strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him. This is kind of a bad translation. Terror and despair dance before him. They dance getting out of the way. Verse 23. The flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. You see, I hope you realize, though the translators have reworded it a little, but this is about 3 times for emphasis that you can't impregnate his hide. And so it is with words other than the correct words. Can you penetrate him? Can you harm him? Can you frighten him away? You can't frighten him. Well, he is afraid if you get rough enough, all right? I don't know. How rough are you with him? 24. His heart is as firm as a stone. You know why? He doesn't have one. Yea, now a crocodile does have a heart, but what I'm saying is we use the term heart, you got to have a heart. Then that kind of heart he doesn't have. Yea, his heart is a piece of the nether millstone. He's mean, he's hard, and he's wicked. Though he talks so sweet. It'll be okay. You'll be all right. Just listen to me. Listen to wisdom. And as Satan in the hour of temptation in Matthew chapter 4, when he was tempting Christ, what did he quote with? What did he speak? Scripture. I guarantee you he knows more Scripture than most Christians. He can quote it. There's just one problem. He always twists it. And the poor Christian oftentimes is not familiar enough with the Scripture to know whether he twisted it or not. Sounds impressive. But just as it was when he tempted Christ, it was wrong. Verse 25. When he raiseth up himself, the mighty are afraid. I mean, the brave heroes are afraid. By reason of breakings, they purify themselves. In other words, they grow confused and lose their way from the path. And then he's got them. It just breaks their cadence. It breaks their discipline. And when you wander off out in the crocodile patch, he's got you. Be very careful in life. You know, it's so easy, unfortunately, most people, many people I will say, when they first realize they're off the beaten path and they're out in the tules here and they're beginning to have trouble, they want to blame somebody. Let me tell you something. You can't blame anyone but yourself. Well, so-and-so, you don't understand here, Brother Murray. So-and-so advised me to take that trail. You didn't have to. You listened to bad advice, so whose fault is that? Yours. Don't try to pass the buck. And the reason I'm being so stern about this is getting off the path and passing the buck is what will get you in more trouble than ever. So that's why you must recognize and not try to point fingers at other people or blame some preacher or blame somebody else. God sent this letter, which is the Holy Word, to you as His child, arming you just as He has armed Job, or is arming him in this chapter, how to take care of himself. So you are not better than all other people, that you cannot absorb the letter, for He will uncover the truth for you, whereby you can absorb it and take it within yourself and be a mighty warrior in God's army. That is to say, to know how to combat Satan, how the conflict is manifested and what you can do about it. Don't grow confused. Always stick to the facts. Don't listen to a bunch of gobbledygook or malarkey. Stick to the facts as God teaches them, because confusion will get you off course. Verse 26. The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold. The spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. Now, again, there's only one armor today that will, and these are armor and weapons. And it goes from the very shield down to the first thing you want to make sure you do is that you have on the girt or the belt, which is the Word of God. It'll keep your britches up. It'll hold you together. It is the armor that will let you dissect this critter and take him apart from the tip of his nose to the tip of his tail. I mean, if you put on that gospel armor, you can have you a nice crocodile travel bag with 2 or 3 little suitcases to go with it, if you know how to be a champion for our Heavenly Father. 27. He esteemeth iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. I mean, after all, he's the prince of this world. He can handle himself. He's the prince of this world age. And you better know your ages. That's why you must know the difference between behemoth and this snake, this crocodile, this Satan, this prince of this age that is allowed to exercise the power of deceit and lies. That for the, intelligent, I guess. Too intelligent for many. Verse 28. The arrow cannot make him flee. Laugh at you. Sling stones are turned with him into stubble. Can't dent his hide. And so it is with Satan. You can mess around with Satan if you want to, but you're going to end up the loser for it and from it. 29. Darts are counted as stubble. He laugheth at the shaking of a spear. You can't threaten him. Threats don't mean anything to him. Why? He doesn't have to keep his promises. He's a goner anyway. Nothing matters to him, except he have a lot of company going with him. Make sure you're not a companion. Verse 30. Sharp stones are under him. He spreadeth sharp pointed things upon the mire. You can have sharp glass under him or some sharp rock or potsherd, and when he crawls over it, he just mashes it into the mud. You can't hurt him. And Satan, after all, is a crawler in the dust. He doesn't care how much trouble or how low or how immoral you become. He loves it. He'll just mash you right on into the mire, take you all the way down, and just laugh at you while he's doing it. He'll just take long enough to do one thing as he's mashing you into the mire, is to turn around to God and say, I thought you said this was one of your elect. As dumb as this character is, I don't know how he ever thought he was one of your elect. The way he lets me manhandle him. Do you let Satan manhandle you? I hope not. It would hurt you. It would break your Father's heart. He cares. Satan is the accuser. And he's going to accuse you, but it's when he is successful that it hurts our Father. Tell him to pack his bag and rip it, to shove off from your family, your life. Don't let him laugh at you. Verse 31. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. When he grabs the bait and when he turns and twists, the water boils. When he takes someone down, you're not going to see him again. And he muddies the water so much and so furiously that you're not going to know which way he went with it. Verse 32. He maketh the path to shine after him. Oh, does he ever. One would think the deep to be hoary. You'd think so. Verse 33. Upon earth there is not his like, who is made without fear. Well, I can tell you, one that is armed with the Word of God, that has the shield of faith, and that belt that is the Word of God, then you don't have to be afraid. Never fear him. Satan can't do anything to you because you have power over him if you're Christian enough to exercise it. Now, God himself lets you know in verse 34 who he's been talking about. A child can understand. Listen to it. He beholdeth all high things. He is what? He is a king over all the children of pride. For what penalty was Satan sentenced to death? You'll read it in Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 18 and 19. Pride. It was his pride that will cause him, as it is written in that chapter in Ezekiel 28, I believe it's in verse 19, that he is turned to ashes from within because of his pride. He is such a proud one. You know why? There is only one thing that if we ever wanted to be proud of anything is that our Father is Yahweh, that our Father is God, and that within him we have the power, we have the authority. How could anyone want to displace him? Satan did. And then don't let him mess up your life. He is the king of this world age for those that will allow him. I like nothing better than stripping his crown from his head and uncovering him and identifying him for who he is and how little power he has or that he possesses over man that is armed with Christ. Make certain that your family is not destroyed by that old crocodile. Don't be like Job to go 37 chapters of yattity, 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 ratchet jaw, men advising him in the traditions of men. Men saying, you just don't go to church often enough, Job. If you really went to church often enough and you didn't get in so much trouble because it's obvious you're an unrighteous man. Job worshiped God every time he got a chance. How could he say that? Because it was ratchet jaw. You know, God finally gets us to the truth. Satan is the blame. The king of pride, of the children of pride, the Kenites, his own offspring. They're the ones causing the trouble. Wake up. And finally Job does wake up. We'll complete this book of Job in the next lecture. There's some real nice pleasantries there. And if anybody deserved them, Job did, as a servant that stayed true to the living God, regardless of what men would say. Don't miss it. All right, bless your heart. You listen a moment, won't you please?
The Mark of the Beast on CD is our free introductory offer to you. What is the Mark of the Beast? Many false teachers would have you believe it will be a tattoo on your forehead or a computer chip implanted under your skin. It's getting late in the game. You need to know what the Mark of the Beast is. As it's written in Revelation chapter 13, verse 8, many will be deceived. Christ said in Mark 13:23, behold, I have foretold you all things. Jesus indeed told us how not to be deceived, and Pastor Arnold Murray takes you on a step-by-step study of God's Word concerning this critical subject. The telephone call is free, the CD is free, no shipping and handling. Just call 800-643-4645 to request your one-time, one-per-household copy of The Mark of the Beast. You may also mail your request to Shepherd's Chapel, P.O. Box 416, Gravette, Arkansas 72736. Don't be deceived by Satan.
All right, bless your hearts. There we are back again. 800 number, 1-800-643-4645. That number is good from Puerto Rico, throughout the U.S., Alaska, Hawaii, all over Canada. If the Spirit moves and you have a question, you share it with us. Won't you do that? Please never ask a question about a particular preacher, a ratchet jaw, a denomination, or an organization. Let's just teach God's Word and let those little hot chips fall wherever they may. Those of you that listen by shortwave around the world at this time, it's always a pleasure hearing from you. Your announcer at the end of the hour will give you our mailing address. If you got a prayer request, you don't need that number. You don't need an address. He's your Father. He sent this letter to you. It's a letter of love. Got some tough love in it a few places, but that's for your benefit, that you absorb it, that you utilize it. For every promise is yours if you qualify. That is to say, if you claim it. So think about it. Father, around the globe we come, we ask that you lead, guide, direct, Father, touch in Yeshua's precious name. Amen, amen. Heal, Father. Thank you. Okay, let's get into some questions. We're going to go to Judy from Indiana. My lay minister from a small church told me if people will not come to church to fellowship, that they do not want to fellowship in heaven. Is this true? Well, it's according, I love to, it's fantastic to fellowship where the Word of God is being taught, but if it's a bunch of ratchet joy, I don't want to be there, because you're not going to have that junk in heaven. You're going to have God's Word. Do you realize there's only one thing, I could say two, I'll say two. There's only two things. One that you can take with you and something else that will never change. Never. The earth age is going to change, but as it is written in Mark 13, God's Word shall never change. So why do you want ratchet jaws? I don't want to go hear them. You know, if it's a good church, hey, let's fellowship. If it isn't, you're wasting your time. A lot of people think when I said that, some people say, well, he tells us we don't have to go to church. No, I didn't say that. You weren't listening if that's what you heard, or you're not too bright, one or the other. I said I wouldn't go to a church where God's word wasn't taught. All right. If somebody's going to ratchet jaw for an hour, I don't have that much time to waste. I'd rather be studying God's word at home. But I love a good church. I was also told by another church member that our Father turned away from Christ when he was crucified because he could not look upon sin. How can this be true? It isn't. Our Father said he would never leave us nor forsake us. Any preacher that teaches that Christ was sin is ignorant. There's no other word to describe what he is. For if he were loaded with sin, as some claim, he paid for our sins. But he was not sin, and don't you ever allow anyone to say that in your presence. You see, had he been sin, he could not have been the perfect sacrifice, and it would do you no good to pray to him today if he was sin. It would violate everything about God's word. So what that member or preacher said to you was blasphemy. Don't tolerate it. Just because Christ quoted Psalms 22 on the cross, many people think this, because he said, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Perfect Hebrew with one little Aramaic verb, which is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? God didn't, in the first place, when Jesus talked to the Father, he called him Father, not God. But he was quoting Psalms 22, verse 1, and he quoted the entire psalm that foretold of the crucifixion of his arms and his legs feet being nailed to the cross, and even down to the Roman soldiers gambling for his clothing at his feet. And then the last line is, as it is done, which is the equivalent of the Greek, it is finished. So he quoted the entire psalm on that cross. I'm afraid you got a bad lot there to pick from, dear. Looks kind of bad to me. Oh well. Maybe God will help them grow up someday. Maybe that's why you're there. Daisy from Arkansas. I have a question for you. Whatever happened to the Ark of the Covenant? Did God take it to heaven or what? Well, according to the Bible, he did. In the last 2 verses of Revelation chapter 6, you'll find out where the Ark of the Covenant is, which is the Ark of the Testament, all right? Do you want my own opinion? I think Elijah took it back with him. Did he? I don't know for sure. But I do know one thing. I know God took it from man because we didn't deserve it any longer. Bob from Kentucky. We are animal lovers, so my question, will there be animals in heaven? Absolutely. Isaiah chapter 11 documents it. And the good part of it is there are no carnivores because the lion lays down with the lamb. God loves his animals. That's why he created them. LB from North Carolina. I have been studying with you for over a year, and even before that, I knew that things didn't make sense the way the churches were teaching. I am the only one in my family that knows the truth, such as the rapture, but if I say anything, my family thinks I'm crazy and they are offended. I feel that I have no fruit to share and don't know what the Lord would have me do. Can you help? Well, Mark 13 tells you what you're supposed to do. And besides, when you're a member of a church, such as this church, the fruit that is gained, you have the same equal part that I do. That's why a church is a unit, and we all share in that fruit equally. But Don't count your family out so quickly. Love your family. Don't argue with them. You've planted seeds, and when you're delivered up, as Mark 13 states, they're going to say, hey, old LB knew what he was talking about. Because a prophecy that isn't given before the fact is not prophecy at all. So God is patient. You be patient too. Lily from Connecticut. The Y2K in Matthew 24 and Mark 13, I have some home repairs I need to do. Should I put them off with the end so close? The end of what? The end of this year? That's not going to help your house, my dear. And Lily, you want to keep your house, your education, encourage your children to live like they're going to be here forever. To be I don't care if it's digging ditches, dig ditches better than anybody else. And you will advance quicker than anyone else. Don't listen to a bunch of, I'm afraid you're listening to some ratchet jaws. The millennium that starts in less than a year now is not the millennium spoken of in the Bible. And apparently you're thinking that, and you've heard, Y2K, the majority, it's already been repaired. I know, they'll say, well, there's some chips, don't you understand that they have things burned into them and like cars are going to stop. Let me tell you something. There is not one chip in an automobile utilized in the ignition system that has a date on it, burned into it. That car is not going to know any difference of whether it's 2,000 or 25,000. Okay? 2,500. I said, well, 25, let's go the whole thing, you know. Hopefully we won't be here in the year 25,000, but who knows? We'll be here on earth then, but we may have a different calendar. I'm afraid, Lily, you're listening to the spooks, okay, that are trying to frighten people. Remain calm. Get your house in order before it starts leaking and doing a stitch in time saves 9. You've heard that old saying. It's still true. And don't listen to the ratchet jaws. I tell you what, I can't hardly wait till we get to the new year for one simple reason. You've got these freaks running around saying airplanes are going to fall out of the sky. And do you know what holds airplanes up? It's not a computer. It's the speed, power, thrust, and the lift over the curvature of the wing, you know? So, and computers don't have anything to do, well, do airplanes have computers in the flight system? But the pilot that's in charge has a computer up here between his ears, and he is pre-organized with the date and everything on how to fly that airplane. It'll be fine. Don't let them shake you up on your first cruise, all right? We serve God, not a computer. Everything's in good shape. Even if there are a few knuckleheads that don't take a little precaution, let them get confused, but don't you. Jeremy from Illinois. Where can I find it in the Bible where it states that you'll get a chance to learn during the millennium? I need to find it so I can document it for one of the elders in the church. I'm only 20 and the elder is in his 50s, and he's amazed how much I know. I tell him it's from your teaching word for word. I tell everyone I know about your program and website. Thanks for spreading the good news. Well, you're welcome, but tread easy around the elders, okay? You're doing good. Well, you can document, probably the easiest place for one that can understand a little bit of Greek, and an elder should, is Revelation chapter 20, verse 5 stipulates that those that overcome the mark of the beast will be priests with Christ for 1,000 years. What do priests do? They teach. Also, in Ezekiel beginning with chapter 40, Jeremy, begins the millennium. And all the rest of Ezekiel is about the millennium. There's more written about the millennium, not the millennium about to begin in the year 2000, but the one spoken of in God's Word, which is the Lord's Day. it begins in chapter 40, and it tells us, especially in 44, who's going to be teaching and basically what they'll be teaching. Okay? So that should help you a bunch, but make certain you do your homework and ground the fact that it is the millennium beginning in chapter 40. Rebecca, your companion Bible, will assist you. Rebecca from Florida. Where is it written to fish on the right side of the boat? John chapter 21, verse 6. John chapter 21, verse 6. Rita from California. What kind of body will Satan have when he returns to earth as Antichrist? The same one he's got now as he's being held. Was man not made in the image of God and the angels? Of course. So he looks just like us, only he has a de facto body. It will be here, and he will look as a man. He is called a man in Isaiah chapter 4, whereby it is written, following his name Lucifer, is this the man, Ish, in the Hebrew tongue, that deceived the world? Okay. Edward from North Carolina. Was Nicodemus ever saved? Edward is a retired serviceman who teaches a Sunday school class. John chapter 19, I believe it's about verse 38, 37, 38, or 39, where Nicodemus, the same one that you're thinking about, and it's emphasized there, brought all the ointments to anoint the body of Christ, so naturally he was saved. Ken from California, does Job 37 refer to Elihu? He's still going. When Elihu finally got his motor running, his old ratchet jaw just kept flopping. Yep, it is. Again, a lot of good word there, but just enough bad that it makes the whole pot sour. So be careful. MD from Arkansas. My family tries to follow God's health laws. How do we handle people who tease us and try to get us to eat unclean foods? Don't handle them. They're dirty. Okay? Don't touch them. Don't have anything to do with them. I'm teasing. Don't worry about it. Don't care. When you're doing God's work, don't give a hoot what people think. God's going to bless you and prosper you if you do His way and will. And besides that, if you go by the health laws, the health laws is not like breaking a law to death, a sin to death. It just makes you unhealthy. And so I'll tell you what, eating by God created these bodies. He knows what keeps them healthy. You will save enough doctor bills in your lifetime if you eat God's way that you can buy you a new car every 5 years by what some people spend on doctor bills. That seems like a pretty good deal to me. Well, I've started to use myself as an example, but I'm not going to. The only time I see a doctor is for my flight surgeon to get my flight physical so I can still fly airplanes, all right? And I hope to be doing that for a long time to come. And I've still passed those old physicals, good sight, and so on and so forth. Lynn from Canada, and I thank the Father for it, all right? When you get my age, you kind of got to be careful about how you make statements like that, okay? Lynn from Canada. I married a non-believer and friends say I committed a sin. Is this so? Well, using bad judgment is not necessarily a sin because you're covered under 1 Corinthians chapter 7, but I would grow very familiar with 1 Corinthians chapter 7 if I were you. They're probably going by the scripture, do not yoke yourself unequally. Well, as long as he does not prevent you from, as the 7th chapter of 1 Corinthians will stipulate, from worshiping God, then you set an example that might convert him, and he might be a better Christian than some of those that are telling you, those Christians that are telling you you committed a sin, all right? But do it God's way as it stipulates, and you'll be all right, okay? I would be real careful what some people call a non-believer anyway. You know, sometimes people would say, you married a non-believer. It may be that they just don't believe the way they believe in your church, all right? They might be I knew an old farmer, bless his heart, he's not with us any longer. I've never seen him in a church, mine or anyone else's. But I guarantee you he had a golden seat in heaven, because a better man, a better Christian man never walked the earth. He was a dandy, all right? And he planted seeds as well. As far as I know, he never darkened the door of a church. But I guarantee you God claimed him. Charlie from California. Would you please explain Matthew chapter 5, verse 22 in layman terms? Matthew chapter 5, verse 22 is, you should love your brother, and I'm out of time, but the main thing that I would put in layman's term is never call a man a fool. But the word is maranos in the Greek. And what it means is don't ever call a man totally void of any hope of salvation or caring about God or even believing a God. Don't call a man that. I'm out of time. I love you all a bunch. Why? You believe in studying your Father's Word in more depth, because it's a letter to you. Mostly, God loves you for that. It makes His day, and He gets a chance to laugh at Satan a little bit because of you. It's great, precious. We're brought to you by your tithes and offerings. If we've helped you, help us keep coming to you. But most important, this, you stay in His Word every day. In His Word is a good day, even with trouble. Do you know why? Jesus is the living Word.
Hearing God's Word with understanding will change your life. We hope you have enjoyed studying God's Word here on the Shepherd's Chapel Family Bible Study Hour with Pastor Arnold Murray. If you would like to receive more information concerning Shepherd's Chapel, you may request our free introductory offer. Our introductory offer contains the Mark of the Beast audio tape, our monthly newsletter with a written Bible study, a tape catalog, and a list of written reference works available through Shepherd's Chapel. To request our free introductory offer by telephone, call 800-643-4645 24 hours a day. You may also request our introductory offer by writing to Shepherd's Chapel, Post Office Box 416, Gravette, Arkansas 72736. Once again, that's Shepherd's Chapel, Post Office Box 416, Gravette, Arkansas 72736. We invite you to join us for the next in-depth Bible study each weekday at this same time. Thank you for watching today's program, and God bless you.